Zekthar pressed his small hands against the observation deck window and watched the battle rage below. His ship floated hidden in space, invisible to the monsters fighting around the planet Zerion Prime. The young Veltai had been recording. Wars for 3 years now, but this fight made his stomach feel sick. 3 massive fleets circled the planet like hungry beasts. Each one wanted the same thing: the quantum crystals buried deep in Zerion's mountains. These crystals could power whole star systems for hundreds of years. Every species in the galaxy wanted them, but only the strongest could take them. Krexner ships looked like floating fortresses made of black metal. Each vessel carried thousands of the 12-foot-tall reptilian warriors. Zekthar had seen Krexner soldiers tear through steel doors with their bear claws. Their leader, War Chief Gorthnax, commanded from a ship the size of a small moon. Green. Plasma cannons fired from every surface, lighting up space with deadly energy. The Vorthix swarm moved like a single living creature. Hundreds of smaller ships darted between the larger vessels, each one controlled by the hive mind that connected every insect warrior. Their ships had no smooth surfaces, just sharp edges and spikes that could cut through enemy hulls. Acid streams shot from their weapons, melting whatever they touched. The Tisan fleet glowed with blue energy. These beings had no physical bodies anymore. They lived as pure energy inside mechanical shells they had built or stolen. Their ships could phase in and out of normal space, appearing behind enemies without warning. When they fired their plasma weapons, the beams could slice a battleship in half. Zekthar's fingers moved quickly over his recording device. The Galactic Archive Corps needed every detail of this battle. His people, the Valtai, were small and weak compared to the monsters. They stood only 4 feet tall and had thin gray skin that bruised easily. But they had survived for thousands of years by staying hidden and watching. The galaxy's history lived in their records. "Another civilian transport destroyed," whispered his recording partner, Melara, from across the small observation room. She pointed at the burning wreckage falling toward the planet's surface. "The monsters don't care about the people trying to escape." Zekthar nodded sadly. The 3 apex predator species had been fighting each other for centuries. Smaller races like his own lived in constant fear. Some served the monsters as slaves. Others hid in distant systems, hoping never to be noticed. The lucky ones died quickly when the wars reached their worlds. On Zerion Prime's surface, 5 million civilians huddled in underground shelters. They had sent distress signals across the galaxy, begging for help. But who would come? Every species knew better than to interfere when the monsters fought. A massive explosion lit up space as a Krexner dreadnought rammed into a Vorthix carrier. Both ships broke apart, spilling thousands of warriors into the vacuum. The Tisan used the confusion to destroy 3 enemy vessels with their phase weapons. More debris rained down on the planet below. Zekthar had recorded 47 battles like this one. The monsters would fight until one side claimed the prize, then the others would retreat to lick their wounds. In a few years, they would fight again somewhere else. The cycle never ended. He was adjusting his long-range scanner when something strange appeared on his screen. A new ship had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. But this vessel didn't belong to any of the 3 monster fleets. "Melara, look at this," Zekthar called softly. His people always spoke in whispers. Loud voices attracted dangerous attention. The new ship was much smaller than the monster vessels. It had a sleek white hull with blue markings along its sides. Strange symbols covered the outer surface. Symbols that didn't match any known alien language in Zekthar's database. "I've never seen that design before," Melara said, moving closer to his station. "The computer can't identify the species." The unknown ship moved slowly toward the battle. It seemed tiny compared to the massive fleets around Zerion Prime. Zeke Thar wondered if the crew realized they were flying into certain death. Then something impossible happened. The fighting stopped. Every monster ship in the system suddenly went quiet. The Krexner stopped firing their plasma cannons. A Vorthic swarm froze in formation. Even the Thyssen energy beings paused their attacks. All three fleets had received the same transmission. Zekthar quickly tuned his equipment to intercept the message. What he heard made his thin hands shake. This is the human vessel Liberty. We are responding to distress calls from civilian populations on Zerion Prime. Withdraw your forces, or we will consider you hostile. The voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, but with an accent Zekthar had never heard before. It sounded calm and steady, showing no fear of the three most dangerous species in known space. Humans? Hilara whispered. I thought they were just rumors. Zekthar searched his memory banks. He found only scattered reports about a species called humans, from a small blue planet near the galaxy's edge. They had achieved faster-than-light travel recently, maybe 50 years ago. Most archive records listed them as primitive and insignificant. War Chief Gorthmak's S-reply thundered across all communication channels. A Krexner leader's voice sounded like grinding stone. Unknown vessel, you dare interrupt our sacred hunt? These crystals belong to the strong. Leave now or be destroyed with the other prey. The human ship continued its approach. On Zekthar's scanner, it looked like a small fish swimming toward three enormous sharks. Queen Mind Japhek spoke for the Vorthic swarm. Her voice buzzed like a million angry insects. Humans, ye have heard whispers of your kind. You will make excellent hosts for our young. Surrender your ship, and we will grant you quick deaths. The Thyssen Prime, a being of pure energy inhabiting a crystalline shell, added its own threat. Biological creatures should not meddle in the affairs of the evolved. Return to your primitive world before we demonstrate true power. The human ship's response came immediately. We're here to help civilians who asked for protection. Stand down your weapons and let us evacuate the people from Zerion Prime. This doesn't have to involve fighting. Zekthar couldn't believe what he was hearing. These humans were actually trying to negotiate with the three apex predators. Did they not understand what kind of monsters they faced? The Krexner had conquered 200 star systems. The Vorthic had consumed entire species. The Thyssen had erased civilizations from history. War Chief Gorthmax laughed, a sound like breaking mountains. You amuse me, little humans. Watch and learn why the strong rule the galaxy. The massive Krexenor flagship turned its weapons toward the human vessel. Hundreds of plasma cannons charged with green energy. Zekthar had seen those same weapons reduce planets to glowing slag. The human ship called Liberty didn't run. It didn't even try to hide. Instead, it did something that made Zekthar's eyes grow wide. With shock, it moved to put itself between the monster fleets and the planet below. By the archive, Melara breathed, they're protecting the civilians. War Chief Gorthmax fired every weapon his ship possessed. Green plasma beams lanced across space, each one carrying enough power to destroy a city. The concentrated fire hit the human vessel dead center. Zekthar expected to see the Liberty vaporized instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ship's shields absorbed the attack. Not only did they hold, but they seemed to grow stronger, glowing with captured energy. For the first time in 3 years of recording monster battles, Zekthar saw something that made the apex predators hesitate. The small human ship was still there, still protecting the planet below, and still broadcasting the same calm message. Stand down your weapons and let us evacuate the civilians. Gorthmax roared in fury and confusion. Queen Mind Z Sizak's buzz rose to an angry shriek. The Thyssen Prime flickered with unstable energy. Zeke Thar realized he was witnessing something that had never happened before in galactic history. Someone had just told the monsters no, and lived to repeat it. He began typing frantically, recording every detail. Something told him this moment would change everything. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching the 3 alien fleets spread out around his ship. He had seen the intelligence reports about these species, but seeing them in person made his stomach tight with worry. Each enemy vessel was at least 10 times larger than his exploration ship. "Captain, we're getting energy readings off the charts," called out Chief Engineer Alex Chun from his station. "Those green beams that just hit us carry enough power to level half of Chicago." "But our shields held," added Dr. Lisa Parker, the ship's chief medical officer. She had left her sick bay to help coordinate damage control teams. "Alex, how did our experimental shields absorb that much energy?" Chun's fingers flew over his controls, checking system readouts. "The adaptive matrix we designed for studying stellar phenomena is actually learning from their weapons. Each shot they fire teaches our shields how to handle that type of energy better." Commander Ryan Torres, the tactical officer, looked up from his weapons console. "Captain, we have a problem. Long-range sensors show civilian evacuation ships trying to leave the planet. The aliens are targeting them." Morrison watched his main screen as small transport vessels lifted off from Zarian Prime's surface. Each ship carried families desperate to escape the battle. Bright energy beams from the monster fleets cut through several transports like they were made of paper. "They're killing innocent people," whispered Navigation Officer Corinne White, her voice shaking with anger. Morrison had joined Earth's space service to explore new worlds and meet alien civilizations. He never expected his first contact with aliens would be watching them murder refugees. The training manuals back on Earth talked about peaceful meetings and cultural exchange. Nobody had prepared him for this. "Sir, incoming transmission from..." The lead Krexener ship, reported Communications Officer Danny Cruz. "Put it through." War Chief Gorthmax's face filled the screen. The reptilian creature stood 12 feet tall, covered in natural armor that looked like black stone. Scars crossed his massive head, and his yellow eyes glowed with ancient hatred. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. "Human Captain, you have made a grave mistake. These crystals belong to the Krexener Empire. We have claimed them through right of conquest. Your pathetic ship cannot stop the inevitable." Morrison kept his voice steady. "War Chief, we're not here for your crystals. We just want to help the civilians escape safely. Let us evacuate them, and we'll leave your system." Gorthmax laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You think you can bargain with the strongest warriors in the galaxy? Your species is unknown to us, which means you are weak. Prepare to join the prey races in servitude or death." The screen went dark. Morrison turned to his crew, seeing fear and determination mixed on their faces. These people had volunteered for a peaceful mission to study distant stars. Now they faced the 3 most dangerous species in known space. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "we're outnumbered about 1,000 to 1. Standard military doctrine would be to retreat and call for backup." "What backup?" Morrison replied. "Earth doesn't even know we're here. The nearest human ship is 6 months away." He looked at the planet below, where more evacuation ships were trying to escape. "We can't leave these people to die." Dr. Parker stepped forward. "Jake, I've been studying the medical files we intercepted about these species. The Krexener heal from almost any wound. The Vorthik share a group mind that makes them impossible to surprise. The Thyssen exist as pure energy and can phase through most attacks. On paper, we can't win." "On paper," Morrison agreed. But humans have never been good at following what's written on paper. Sean suddenly straightened at his station. Captain, a Vorthic swarm is moving. Sensors show 200 attack ships breaking formation and heading our way. The Vorthic vessels looked like flying nightmares. Each ship had a hull covered in spikes and cutting edges. They moved together like a school of deadly fish, changing direction as one unit. Green acid sprayed from their weapons, designed to eat through enemy armor. They're trying to flank us, Torres reported. Standard attack pattern would be to hit us from 3 sides while the big ships fire from long range. Morrison smiled grimly. Good thing we're not using standard tactics. Chun, can you reroute power from our scientific equipment to the engines? Yes, sir. But why would we ... Chun's eyes lit up with understanding. Oh, that's actually crazy enough to work. Karen, plot a course straight through the middle of that Vorthic formation. Maximum speed. Navigation Officer White stared at him. Sir, that's suicide. They'll tear us apart. Not if we're moving too fast for them to track properly. These ships are designed to fight large, slow targets. They've never faced anything like us. The Liberty shot forward, engines burning at 110% capacity. The Vorthic swarm tried to adjust, but their formation had been designed to trap a retreating enemy. They never expected a human ship to charge straight at them. Morrison's ship flew through gaps in the alien formation that shouldn't have existed. The Vorthic fired their acid weapons, but the Liberty twisted and rolled like a fighter plane instead of an exploration vessel. Most shots missed completely. How are we doing this? Dr. Parker asked, gripping her chair as the ship spun through. Another impossible maneuver. Humans evolved from hunters, Torres explained, his hands dancing over weapon controls. We're designed to track fast-moving prey. These aliens evolved from predators that ambush their food. They can't adapt to something that refuses to run away. The Liberty emerged from the Vorthic formation with only minor hull damage. Behind them, several alien ships had collided with each other, confused by the human vessel's unpredictable movement. Incoming. Plasma barrage from the Tisan fleet, Chon called out. They're firing everything they have. Blue energy beams filled space around the human ship. The Tisan had calculated the Liberty's speed and position perfectly. Their attack should have been impossible to avoid, but Morrison had one advantage the aliens didn't expect. All hands, race for emergency stop. The Liberty's engines reversed. At full power, the ship went from maximum speed to nearly motionless in seconds. G-forces that should have killed the crew were absorbed by the same adaptive systems that protected them from the stellar phenomena they had come to study. The Tisan. Energy beams shot past them, missing by hundreds of meters. War Chief Gorthmak's voice boomed over the communication system. Impossible. No ship can change direction that quickly without destroying its crew. Human engineering, Morrison replied calmly. We tend to overbuild everything. The 3 alien fleets regrouped, clearly shaken by the human ship's survival. They had thrown their best attacks at a single small vessel and failed to destroy it. Worse, the humans had made them look foolish in front of each other. Dr. Parker was treating crew members for minor injuries when she noticed something strange. Captain, our people are working better together than they ever have before. Combat. Stress should be making coordination harder, not easier. Morrison nodded. Humans are pack hunters, Lisa. Danger makes us work as a team, not fall apart. On his screen, Morrison could see more civilian ships launching from the planet. The aliens. We're focusing on the Liberty now, giving the refugees a chance to escape. Every minute his crew bought meant more innocent lives saved. Sir, Torres reported, all 3 fleets are moving to surround us. They're not taking any chances this time. Morrison looked at his crew, scientists and explorers who had become warriors when innocent lives were threatened. They had faced the galaxy's most feared predators, and survived through teamwork, ingenuity, and stubborn refusal to give up. "Let them come," he said quietly. "They still don't understand what they're dealing with. The real battle was just beginning." 3 weeks had passed since the Liberty escaped from Zarian Prime. The monster species had done something they had never done before in recorded history. They stopped fighting each other and formed an alliance. War Chief Gorthnax, Queen Mind, Jathek, and the Tisan Prime had one shared goal now: find the humans and destroy them completely. Zekthar floated in his damaged observation ship, watching the largest fleet he had ever seen gather in empty space. Thousands of Krexner battleships hung in formation next to Vorthik swarm carriers and Tisan energy platforms. The three species had spent centuries trying to kill each other. Now they worked together like old friends. "The humans have united our greatest enemies," whispered Nalara from her repair station. "Is that a good thing or the worst possible thing?" Zekthar didn't know the answer. His small ship had been caught in the crossfire during the Zarian battle. The human vessel Liberty had actually rescued his crew before fleeing the system. He still couldn't believe that aliens had risked their lives to save two Valtai observers they had never met. The Monster Alliance had tracked the human ship too. A world called New Boston. Intelligence reports said it was a farming colony with maybe 50,000 humans. War Chief Gorthnax expected to crush the settlement in a few hours and send a message to Earth about what happened to species that defied the natural order. Combined Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Boston system. What they found there made even Zekthar gasp in surprise that the farming world had been turned into a fortress. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet like a metal shell. Mining stations had been converted into weapon platforms. Even the agricultural satellites now bristled with defensive systems. Space around New Boston looked like a giant metal web designed to catch unwary prey. How did they do this so quickly? Buzzed Queen Mind's Jathek over the fleet communication system. Our intelligence said this was a peaceful farming world. Mayor Susan Blake answered from the planet's surface. Her voice carried the same calm confidence that Captain Morrison had shown at Zarian Prime. War Chief Gorthnax, Queen Mind Zisizthak Tisan Prime, welcome to New Boston. You're not welcome here. War Chief Gorthnax's angry roar echoed across all frequencies. Human female, you dare mock the greatest warriors in the galaxy? We will burn your pathetic world and scatter your ashes across the void. You can try, Blake replied. But you should know that every human ship, station, and colony in this sector has been sharing data from Captain Morrison's encounter with your fleets. We've had 3 weeks to prepare for your visit. The Tisan Prime's energy form flickered with irritation. Biological creatures cannot adapt their warfare methods so quickly. It takes cycles of evolution to change combat strategies. Maybe. For your species, said a new voice. This was Defense Coordinator Matt Rodriguez, speaking from the planet's military command center. Humans share information differently. When one of us learns something new, all of us learn it. Zekthar's observation equipment picked up massive energy signatures as the monster fleet charged their weapons. This would be the largest bombardment in galactic history. 3 apex predator species firing everything they had at one small human world. The attack began with War Chief Gorthnax's flagship launching a plasma barrage that could have destroyed a moon. Green energy beams lanced toward New Boston's orbital defenses. The humans had built their platforms in a pattern that looked random, but Zekthar realized it was actually very clever. Each platform could support the others, creating overlapping fields of protective energy. The Krexner plasma hit the human shields and scattered in all directions. Some energy was absorbed, some was reflected back at the attacking ships, and some was redirected to charge the defensive platform's own weapons. The humans had learned from the Liberty's adaptive shielding and improved the design. Queen Mind, Jothek sent her swarm forward next. Thousands of Vorthic fighters swarmed toward the planet like angry insects. Their acid weapons could eat through any known armor. But as they approached the orbital platforms, something unexpected happened. Hidden human fighters launched from concealed positions. These ships were smaller and faster than anything the galaxy had seen before. They moved like birds, darting between the Vorthic swarm and using the larger alien ships as cover. When they fired, their weapons seemed to know exactly where each enemy vessel would be. "Impossible," hissed Queen Mind Jothek. "My swarm shares a perfect group mind. No individual pilots can match our coordination." Communications Officer Maria Santos replied from her position in the defense center. "You're right. Individual pilots can't match you. But we're not fighting as individuals." Zekthar watched in amazement as the human fighters worked together in ways that seemed to violate everything he knew about space combat. They covered each other's blind spots, shared targeting data instantly, and adapted their tactics every few seconds. It was like watching a single creature with hundreds of bodies. The Thyssen energy beings tried to use their phase-shifting ability to appear inside the human defensive grid. They expected to catch the humans by surprise and destroy the platforms from within. Instead, they found themselves flying into carefully prepared traps. Dr. Kevin Wright, the human strategic planner, had studied the energy beings' movement patterns from the Zarian battle. He knew they could phase through normal matter, but energy fields still affected them. The humans had filled space around their platforms with invisible energy nets that caught the Thyssen ships like flies in a spider web. "Your phase technology is impressive," Wright's voice came over the communication system, "but predictable. You always appear in the tactically optimal position. We just had to figure out where that would be and put some surprises there." The battle raged for 6 hours. Every time the monster species tried a new attack, the humans had a counter-strategy ready. The defenders lost ships and platforms, but they never broke formation. More importantly, they never stopped talking to each other. Zekthar listened to human communication channels and heard something that made his small heart race with excitement. The humans weren't just fighting, they were learning. Every attack the monsters made taught the defenders something new. Every successful defense was immediately shared with human forces across the galaxy. War Chief Gorthnax finally called for a temporary retreat. The 3 monster fleets pulled back to regroup, having lost more ships than they had ever lost in a single battle. The human colony was still there, still defiant, and somehow stronger than when the fight began. "This is impossible," the Krexner leader growled during the Alliance planning session. "We are the apex predators. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 cycles. How can these weak mammals resist our combined might?" Zekthar knew the answer, even if the monsters didn't. The apex predators were used to fighting prey that ran away or predators that fought for dominance. They had never faced a species that fought to protect others. Mayor Susan Blake's voice reached across space one more time. "War Chief, your fleets can keep attacking if you want, but every shot you fire teaches us how to fight you better. Every day you spend here, more human ships arrive from other colonies, and every civilian transport that escapes our planet carries the tactical data to defeat your weapons." In the pause that followed, Zekthar heard something he had never heard before. In any monster communication, uncertainty. The humans had done something that should have been impossible. They had made the galaxy's apex predators afraid. As the monster fleet regrouped for another attack, Zekthar began composing what he knew would be the most important archive entry in galactic history. The age of the monsters was ending. The age of humans had begun. 6 months after the Battle of New Boston, Zekthar floated in his observation ship above the Nexus system. This was the symbolic heart of galactic civilization, where trade routes from 1,000 worlds converged. If the monsters could win here, they would prove their dominance over the entire galaxy. If they lost, their age of terror would end forever. The 3 apex predator species had gathered their largest fleets in history. Every Krexener warrior, every Vorthic swarm ship, and every Thyssen energy platform hung in space around the central star. War Chief Gorthnax commanded over 10,000 vessels. Queen Mind Zsizthak controlled 50,000 fighters. The Thyssen Prime led 3,000 energy constructs capable of destroying planets. "This is the largest military force ever assembled," whispered Nalara from her station. "The monsters are risking everything on this battle." Zekthar nodded, watching the enemy formation spread across his scanner. But something had changed in the last 6 months. The galaxy wasn't the same place. It had been when the monsters ruled through fear alone. Small rebellions had started on a dozen worlds. Prey species that had served the monsters for centuries were suddenly fighting back. They used human tactics, hit and run attacks, shared intelligence, and coordinated strikes. The Krexener had lost 3 mining colonies. The Vorthic had been driven from 2 star systems. Even the mighty Thyssen had been forced to abandon border territories. The humans had done something impossible. They had given hope to species that had forgotten what freedom looked like. Now Admiral Jake Morrison led the response fleet toward Nexus. His force looked tiny compared to the monster armada. But Zekthar had learned not to judge human fleets by size alone. The Liberty flew at the center of a formation that included ships from 40 different species. Val Tai observation vessels provided long-range scanning. Million engineers operated mobile repair platforms. Centauri fighters used their natural telepathy to coordinate attacks. Even the peaceful Harmonic Collective had sent their crystal ships to help with communications across the massive battlefield. Admiral Morrison, War Chief Gorthnax's voice thundered across all frequencies. "You have brought children to fight the adults of this galaxy. Surrender now, and we will grant your species a quick extinction." Morrison's reply came from the Bridge of the Liberty, now reinforced with armor and weapons from a dozen different worlds. War Chief Queen Mind Thyssen Prime, you had your chance to rule through fear. Now you get to learn what happens when people fight for something bigger than themselves. The battle began with the largest energy barrage in recorded history. Every monster weapon fired at once, creating a wall of destructive force that lit up space like a new star. The combined attack carried enough power to sterilize several worlds. The Human Alliance fleet moved to meet it. But instead of trying to absorb or deflect the attack, they did something that made Zekthar's scanning equipment overload with surprise readings. They used the enemy's power against them. Commander Ryan Torres, now serving as Admiral Morrison's tactical coordinator, had spent months studying the monster weapons. Every human ship in the fleet carried modified shield generators that could capture enemy energy and redirect it. When the monster barrage hit the Alliance fleet, most of the destructive force was turned around and fired back at the attackers. Krexener battleships found themselves hit by their own plasma cannons. Vorthic swarm ships were dissolved by reflected acid streams. Thyssen energy platforms overloaded when their own power was fed back into their systems. "Impossible," hissed Queen Mind. "Shafik. No species has ever turned our weapons against us." Dr. Lisa Parker, now leading the Alliance Medical Corps, answered from her position aboard a converted hospital ship. "Your weapons are very powerful. Thank you for teaching us how to use them." The monster fleets tried to adapt, but they faced a problem they had never encountered before. The Human Alliance wasn't fighting like any single species. Each member race contributed their unique abilities to a coordinated strategy that changed every few minutes. Centauri telepaths linked human pilots with alien engineers, creating perfect coordination between different species. Million repair crews. Fixed damage to Veltai sensor arrays, while harmonic collective crystal ships boosted communication signals across the battlefield. Ships that should never have been able to work together operated like parts of a single massive organism. War Chief Gorthmax led a direct assault with his personal fleet, trying to break through the Alliance Center and destroy Admiral Morrison's command ship. The Krexner warriors had conquered hundreds of worlds through brute force and overwhelming aggression, but the humans had learned from every previous battle. Chief Engineer Alex Chun had upgraded the Liberty's engines with technology from 6 different species. The ship could now move in ways that seemed to violate the laws of physics, dancing between massive Krexner vessels like a butterfly avoiding giants. "Stand still and fight like warriors," roared Gorthmax as his weapons missed their target again and again. "We are fighting like warriors," Morrison replied calmly. "Just not your kind of warriors." The human alliance used swarm tactics, surrounding individual monster ships and attacking from all directions. They used deception, making their fleets appear larger through sensor tricks and holographic projections. They used patience, retreating when the enemy was strong and attacking when the monsters were confused or divided. Most importantly, they used sacrifice. When Alliance ships were damaged beyond repair, their crews didn't flee. Instead, they used their vessels as weapons, ramming them into enemy formations or detonating their power cores to clear paths for other ships. Zeke Thar watched a human transport pilot deliberately crash his burning ship into a Vorthic carrier to save a group of Veltai observers. The pilot's last words were broadcast across the fleet. "Tell my kids I helped make the galaxy safe for them." The tide of battle turned when the Tisan Prime made a fatal mistake. The energy being tried to phase through Admiral Morrison's flagship and destroy the human command structure in a single strike. But Morrison was ready. Dr. Kevin Wright had developed a trap specifically for energy-based life forms. When the Tisan Prime appeared inside the Liberty's bridge, it found itself caught in a containment field powered by its own energy signature. The most powerful being in the Tisan fleet was suddenly a prisoner aboard a human ship. "Release me, biological creature," the Tisan Prime demanded, its energy form flickering with rage. "I'll release you when you call off your fleets and agree to peace talks," Morrison replied. Without their leader, the Tisan energy platforms began to retreat. Queen Mind Jothak tried to maintain the swarm's coordination, but human jamming signals disrupted her hive mind connection. Individual Vorthic ships started making their own decisions, and most of those decisions involved fleeing the battle. War Chief Gorthmax fought to the end, his massive flagship exchanging fire with Alliance vessels until its hull cracked and atmosphere bled into space. Even then, the Krexner leader refused to surrender, choosing to die rather than admit defeat. As the monster fleets scattered or surrendered, Zekthar began composing his final archive entry about the old galactic order. The 3 apex predator species had ruled through strength, but they had never understood that true strength came from working together. Admiral Morrison's voice echoed across the Nexus system as rescue ships moved to help damaged vessels from both sides. To all species listening to this broadcast, the age of ruling through fear is over. The Galactic Council is now open to any race that wants to join. We'll face the future together, as equals. Zekthar looked around his small observation ship, where Mel-Ara was already preparing reports to send to Veltai colonies across the galaxy. Soon his people would emerge from hiding and take their place among the stars as respected members of a new galactic community. Through his window, he could see human children and alien youngsters playing together aboard the Liberty. They laughed and shared games while their parents worked to rebuild a galaxy that had been broken by centuries of war. The monsters had taught the galaxy about conquest and dominance. The humans had taught it something far more powerful, that the strongest creatures are those who use their strength to protect others. As his ship prepared to join the growing fleet, heading toward Earth for the first Galactic Council meeting, Zekthar whispered a quiet thank you to the species that had shown the universe what real courage looked like. The age of humans had begun, and with it, the first real peace the galaxy had ever known.